Hey, team players, welcome to Local Football Flavor, talking about the upcoming fantasy draft. And the reason to pay attention to us is we win leagues, we're building teams to win championships, and that's what we do. Obviously, follow us in season for all the week-to-week updates, but building your draft is one of the most important ways to win, period. And right now, we're looking at what ESPN has ranked as the 12th round for a standard PPR league. And as we look at this group here, Bob, there's some names that I like. We've been talking overall about how really from the 9th, 10th round or so on, you really want to be going for high potential guys. And the way that you build your team is these are the kind of guys that give you a chance to win leagues. You connect on someone here that ends up being a major winner, like Harris that we discussed in the last episode, you get a chance to make something crazy. And overall, I've been discussing about how there's not a whole lot of upside in the Kansas City receiving room, with the exception of one guy. And to me, that's Kadarius. I think that Kadarius is primed to be the number 2 in Kansas City behind Kelsey, obviously. And if you can give me the number 2 option of Patrick Mahomes in the 12th round, I think that's a no-brainer. I think all thinking can shut down and stop. We're done. Time to keep it moving. And I look at the other ones that he's compared to here. I got a rookie in Addison that, again, I don't believe in buying into rookies early. I don't think that I look at Moore in Arizona. I don't want to touch that at all. I don't want to touch the Arizona passing game. So really, I'm looking at either Higby or backup running backs now.
So I'm gonna lay
that's how I feel about it.
I'm gonna lay this piece of information on you, and this is this area of the draft where you're in your 10th, 11th, 12th rounds.
Mm-hmm.
If you have already built your primary core of your roster, minus say your quarterback
and defense, obviously,
this is a really good opportunity to take someone else's backups, someone else's handcuffs.
Can't do that. That's always fun.
Now, you're going to say, well, don't I want my handcuff? No.
Take someone else's.
The reason you don't want your handcuff is that you don't want your number 1 player to go down.
Nope.
That's who you drafted him to be. If you have Christian McCaffrey, you don't want Elijah Mitchell because Elijah Mitchell hopefully won't see the field.
Planning for failure is worse than usual failure, Marty.
You want to take other people's backup running backs. So if you drafted Bijan Robinson in the first or second round, you're not thinking about Tyler Algier.
Mm-mm.
But if your buddy took Bijan Robinson in the first round, you are taking Tyler Algier in this round.
Mm-hmm.
You are, for the guy that picked Kenneth Walker in the 2nd or 3rd round, you're not taking Charbonnet in this round. Somebody else is going to take him. The reason for that is that you want to maximize what you can get at every position. If, for example, Kenneth Walker goes down or Bijan goes down, then you have a player that could potentially step in.
Instant leverage.
And win you games. You also have the potential to trade him to the guy for somebody else that could fill out your roster a little bit. And it's really no skin off your back because by the time that bye weeks start in the NFL, you're going to have a pretty good idea who's good on your team, who's not good on your team.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be playing the waiver wire. So at this point in time in the draft, you're looking at all of those high upsides that we've been talking about. You're also probably looking to fill in a quarterback position. You're also looking to fill in some depth positions. But the depth position of taking somebody else's running back, there is absolutely no skin off your back to do that.
It's also not poor form. Some people will yell and scream saying it's bad etiquette. It is not. Because it is part of the game.
Let's be honest here. I have Tyler Algier staring at me at the same time that Devin Singletary is staring at me.
Mm-hmm.
Devin Singletary has zero upside to me.
Zero. Absolutely none.
He is what I guess would be considered the backup to Dameon Pierce.
He is
kind of just 1A, 1B here in this regard.
Neither of them's going to score.
Do I want to take Dameon Pierce's backup? No. I want to take Robinson's backup or Walker's backup because that's the handcuff that is going to get more points whenever the actual running
because they're better running games
may go down.
Yeah.
Right? They also might get the ball anyway because they're talented. And so when I'm going to build my team here, I would rather do that than taking a guy like Higby, because Higby offers me no upside.
Well, Higby's the one I want to put a clause on, because Higby is first 4 games of the year or whatever it was last year, Bob. Higby led the league in targets by like 20. Like all of Stafford's throws either went to Cup or to Higby, and no one else.
It's true.
And then after Stafford got hurt, Higby became useless. So, as we've said
he
a
had
couple of
26 receptions in 4 games.
Yeah. So, like I said, he tore it up. As we've been saying before, part of fantasy football is how do you believe teams will go? And in this specific question is, do you think that Stafford is going to come back? And for Higby, to me, is a safer option in this question than Cup. And the reason for that is Higby doesn't go down the field as deep as Cup. So even if Stafford is limited in his downfield strength, Higby has a bigger window of being open, if you will, than Cup does, because Cup literally will outrun Stafford's arm. And I like that possibility that he's already an absolute target machine for a good quarterback. Because if Stafford is healthy, he's a no doubt top 10 quarterback. And for the exact same reason, I love Kadarius Toney, because top 10 quarterback, number 2 option, Higby's in that same boat. The problem I have with this is I don't think Stafford's coming back. And that's in general why I'm down upon Cup and I'm down upon Higby.
Yeah, I mean, I see that, because while I'm looking at his numbers this year, 72 receptions over the course of the year. We just said it, through first 4 weeks, that's 26 receptions.
Mm-hmm.
So subtract that from 72.
It's basically 50 across 15 games.
That's the rest of the game there.
Yeah.
And then he had another game where he had 9 receptions, and in that game he scored 2 touchdowns and had 30 points.
Mm-hmm.
But there were a lot of games where, there was one game where he got targeted 1 time.
Yeah.
And so as you look at this round, it's going to paint a clearer picture. If you didn't go after those tight ends that we've already mentioned,
you might as well keep sitting, because there's no point in
if you're not on the Cole Kmet bus, Tyler Higby is going to be there probably next round.
It should be.
You're going to be able to get him, and I think this is a really good round, like I said, to take someone else's backup running back.
Love that idea.
Kenneth Gainwell is a wild card here, because the Philadelphia Eagles have 4 running backs.
Yeah, but I don't want a third running back if I can get someone. If I can out-Gier Charbonnet, Gainwell shouldn't be considered.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. And same to go with Mostert is that you're going to have Jeff Wilson, you're going to have Mostert, you have that a Shane guy, and then you potentially have Delvin Cook in the room. So Mostert, to me,
as soon as Delvin Cook comes in the room, the rest of them you don't need to worry about.
Even though Mostert had a better trajectory than Jeff Wilson last year, I'm still these guys. Those Mostert and Gainwell, they're guys that I'm thinking about later on, later, not now.
No.
Now, the other player here, the 2 other players that stick out to me here, Rondell Moore, I don't even know why he's on. That's not even a thing. Honestly, come on. Is it really?
Who wants an Arizona guy? No, this is ESPN's list. I'm not making it up. This is ESPN's list.
Who said this? But
let's put this in perspective. The number 2 target of the Kansas City Chiefs is in the same tier as the number 2 receiver as the Arizona Cardinals. That don't sound right, but it's where we're at with ESPN right now.
It doesn't sound right at all.
But it is what it is.
And I'm sitting here going, well, that doesn't make any sense, because Toney and Jordan Addison potentially could be ranked higher come August than Jackson Smith, than Brandon Cooks, than Jacoby Myers, than Juju Smith.
Oh, that's a good question.
Because if you're looking at what Kansas City does, Toney's target share sucked. He never went over 30%.
But he also got there late, and it's a hard offense to learn. He's got the whole offseason then.
If the offseason trajectory is good for him, and this is to say, too, that Kansas City moved on from Juju. So now Toney is sitting there. They also moved on from Hardman.
I also don't like Toney as a player. I just love his situation. I need to clarify that.
They moved on from Hardman.
Yeah, it's set up for him.
The situation.
Him and Sky Moore, one of the 2 of them are going to go through the roof.
Addison's situation is also a situation to look out for because you've
Again,
got Jefferson being the main top dog.
Yeah.
You've got Hawkinson being number 2 there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking at, say, all right, well, the defenses that they face aren't that good. So if
True.
you want to take a chance on a guy, you can go after Jordan Addison as well. And then in this ranking, you've got Russell Wilson, who, let's face it.
You're either riding or you're dying.
You're either in or you're out. I'm not in right now.
I'm not in either.
But out of this list of players, if I don't have my quarterback yet, and say I already have a tight end,
mm-hmm.
And Tony's gone, there's a very good chance that I might take a chance on Russell Wilson because at this point,
there's still 2 quarterbacks I'd be sitting on, and I wouldn't even be considering Russell.
At this point, there's
at least 2.
There's 3 quarterbacks we have not ranked yet that are probably going to be by season's end a better option than Russell Wilson. Even after everything good that we've said,
dude, if Russell Wilson connects, though, he could be top 5.
That's
because Russell Wilson is actually the perfect example of go big or go home in the quarterback realm. It's like him and Watson have the upside because both him and Watson passing systems where you're saying they were great at one point. We know it's in them. Can it come out again? Now, Russell Wilson in this case, has a Hall of Fame coach, and he had an idiot as a coach last year. So the upside is built in. Plus, he's got a really, really good receiving room.
There's a very good chance that if you're drafting at the back half of this round and you don't have a quarterback yet, that you take 2 at the turn.
Oh, yeah, I'm fine with that.
There's a very good chance you play.
It's the time you do that stuff.
It's a very good chance that you play the Kirk Cousins, Ben Roethlisberger game of years past, where you take 2 very solid players, and
play matchups.
On a week-to-week basis, these players are capable of scoring you lots of points. Pick the right one in the week, you're good to go, and then eventually, if you don't need them, then you just drop them after the bye week because that's a roster spot you don't have to worry about. And there's going to be a lot of people out there that tell you don't draft 2 quarterbacks. But, I feel that drafting 2 quarterbacks, unless you take Patrick Mahomes, you take
one of the top 5, you don't need to worry about it.
Well, Lamar, yeah. But if you take any quarterbacks in these middle rounds, you're eventually going to need a second one. And I think that using a roster spot on 2 quarterbacks, that's not always the most intelligent position because they're the least likely pieces to be traded. But you also could just dump one of them. And to be honest, if I get Russell Wilson and say I get the guy that I'm talking about next in the next round, that's really not that bad.
No, it's not. Because, again, Russell Wilson gives you the upside explosion. And when we look at this part of the draft, it's what it's all about. And I like that option. So, Bob, why don't you give me your whole breakdown of all of them? Who are you taking in the 12th round?
Okay, so as it goes.
As it
goes, Russell Wilson is my top from this group for the reasons that I stated. Yeah, he had a bad year last year, really monumental collapse last year. Not even a bad year. It was epically bad last year for Russell Wilson.
It sure was.
But, let's face it, Sean Payton has done wonders with small guys. So I'm hoping for a bounce back, and I think that the situation is set up for him to bounce back. And got rid of all the bad coaching last year, and we saw he did pick it up as the season went on. He was allowed to do his song and dance there. Next is Charbonnet, because Pete Carroll – I don't even know what Pete Carroll does with running backs in Seattle anymore. It feels like
this is the new one.
Whoever doesn't get hurt plays.
Well, yeah.
And and then the next game, that other player might not be hurt, but then another player plays. And so I think Charbonnet is set up to be successful, and it's a shame because I think Kenneth Walker is a supremely talented running back.
Yes.
But my next. That would be Zach Charbonnet. I think that that's going to be an interesting opportunity. For the same reason that I also said Tyler Algier is also up on this block here too, for the same reasons. He's a handcuff. He's in a run-first team. It's hard not to pick him, knowing what talent is around. Pardon me, what talent is around him in this part of the draft. Next up is Kadarius Toney. The situation is good. The situation is very good. Jordan Addison, different situation, but similar reasoning is that his situation is also good because they're going to be covering Justin Jefferson. They're going to be covering TJ Hawkinson. So you're getting potentially the third best coverage guy on Jordan Addison until they learn about Jordan Addison. I could see Jordan Addison putting up a good weeks 1 through 5, sinking in the middle of the season for a little bit, weeks 6 through 10, maybe coming back towards the end of the season.
Dude, if he does that middle group, Jay just going to put up 40-point weeks.
Well, yeah.
Like, it'll be awesome.
And in this respect too, if you took Justin Jefferson and you want to take Jordan Addison, there's really no problem because
there's enough ball to go around there.
There's enough ball to go around, and I think that stacking those two, it's a low end stack. You're not going to start them every week, but if you need to put Jordan Addison in as a flex, there's a good chance that he's going to be a good flex this year. So Wilson, Charbonnet, Algier, Toney, Addison. Then I'm putting in Higby for the same reasons that you stated. If Stafford comes back, target machine, he's going to get 10, 11 points just by getting the ball thrown his way. So there's nothing much else to say there. That's what it is. And then the rest of the guys, undraftable. It's honest.
That's what it needs to be honest.
I don't want to touch Devin Singletary. He's the next one on this list that I would take, but I wouldn't want to touch him. The next would be Mostert. Again, don't want to touch him. The next would be Gainwell. Don't want to touch him. And Rondell Moore. Who? It doesn't even make any sense that he's there.
And this is why we go through this, because you're going to have people in your draft that are just going off their list and start taking these names. And you're going to go, there's reasons we shouldn't touch them. Even if he's slated as a 15th rounder, you take him because your team will be better. You don't take yourself just because the list says so. So that being said, going through my people here, Bob, I'm starting with Kadarius. Again, I think that his situation is just out of the world better. My number 2 is Algier because despite the fact Robinson being as beloved he is, he's still a rookie, and you got to believe that he's not going to get 100% of the share or as high of a share as Walker. Plus, it's a bigger running game in Atlanta than Seattle. That's why I got Charbonnet as my 3 seed. Following Charbonnet at my 4 comes Higby because of everything we said before. Russell Wilson says 5. And then Addison, again, I don't believe in rookies if it's a year-to-year transferring draft, meaning you redraft the entire league every year. I try to avoid the rookies. It's the second-year guys are the ones I covet. That being said, if you have any type of keeper potential, Addison would be the first of this group. But as it be, he doesn't. So he would slate in next. And then, Bob, I completely agree with you that the other 4 are on my do not draft list. I am not drafting a number 3 running back from any team, even if it's the Eagles. So Gainwell was off the list. I do not want to touch the Houston Texans running game at all. So Singletary got voided. I don't believe Mostert. Mostert's an interesting one. Maybe I would draft him, but not here. And the simple fact is because his coach doesn't value his players' health at all. So second Wilson gets hurt, Mostert could be out there, but Mostert could just as easily be the guy who gets hurt first. It's a gamble of a bad situation, and I don't like it. And then any receiver on the Arizona Cardinals not named Ertz and not named Hollywood are undraftable.
Well, I mean, you look at this, and just looking at Rondell Moore's numbers when Kyler Murray was healthy, with a healthy Hollywood Brown as well. We also had Greg Dortch sprinkled in there.
Yeah, but Ertz is better. So
Rondell Moore put up good numbers. There was a stretch of time between week 8 and week 11 where he had 23, 14, and 18 points. There was a lot of targets coming his way. Then he went down with a groin injury. The reason that this ranking, that he's undraftable at this point in time, is that Rondell Moore with an injury like that, with limited upside, is not a guy that you want to take over people that have a higher upside.
Oh, that's exactly it.
So Rondell Moore 2 rounds later, sure.
I don't think so.
Now, no.
I think I'm Rondell Moore never.
I mean, it's undraftable to me. I'm not going to take him. But if you do like him, if he's sitting there and you do want to take a chance.
And the real reason is what Bob just started with Kyler Murray. He's never playing with Kyler Murray this year. Because there's a very good chance Arizona's already stated they want the first pick. There's a very good chance they don't even play Kyler Murray when he's healthy enough. Remember, Lovie Smith lost his job because he won a game. That is a thing that happens in the NFL. When they want their first pick, they better get it. And the Arizona Cardinals, I believe, are the safest money for having the first pick of the draft. So, team players, if you haven't already, click subscribe, become a team player. And we're going to be doing our best ball leagues. So leave in the comments your information. We'll set something up as our draft will be done on FanDuel as we get closer to kickoff.